Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right, welcome back. This is East Coast Adventures with the Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we got a special guest today with us, Steven Kornhaus. Y'all may know him from his YouTube channel or even from some of the ultra runs he's done. Steven's got quite a decoration of races and medals. You can see that behind him if you're watching the video. But Steven, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on the podcast. Looking forward to catching up with you, David and Matt. It's been a while since I've seen you guys. Yeah. But I'm Steven Kornhaus. Let's see, what a little bit about me. I was in the Army for a while, got out. I'm in the insurance industry, not a lot of fun, but I do that. Father, 4 kids. I'm a ultrarunner. My wife's an ultrarunner as well. Yeah, I love running, sharing my passion for it on my YouTube channel, and just hopefully putting something on the channel that helps people out in some way.
So what branch of the military were you in?
I was in the Army.
Sweet.
I was I was a tanker, so I was in the M1A1 SEP V2 tanks.
Ooh, I'm guessing that's not where your love for running come from.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I started trying to think about that when you asked me like how I started running, and the start of running was probably in like 2005, maybe. I think my sister got me into like a 5K, and actually it was in Knoxville, Tennessee. Got me into that was in it was in Asheville, North Carolina. I think it was the Bellshare 5K. It might have been my first actual race. I did that for a couple of years. The 5K, 10K thing. Didn't do any half marathons at that point. And let's see. Gosh, yeah, I ran for a little bit off and on. Got into the Army, and then they force you to run, for PT. Mm-hmm. And then I got out of the Army in 2012, and I didn't want to do any running because I had been told I had to do it for 4 years. So I took a couple years off and really didn't get back into running until kind of off and on, maybe 2015. But not seriously until probably 2017 is when I really got back into it pretty seriously and started doing, half marathons.
So you had like a long break then between the 5K and coming back into running then, because you did the 5K in 2005, then joined the military, didn't run when you got out of the military.
Yeah, so from 2012, I took a break till probably end of 2014, maybe beginning of 2015. So yeah, I took probably close to 3 full years just about off of running. I grew a beard because, can't have those in the Army. And,
stuff gets taken away from you. You bring it back as quick as you can, and usually exactly. in a large dose that's probably not the best decision.
That's why right? I got my beard. I'll work with them to have the beard, and I'll switch departments, and whoosh, here it is.
There you go. And that's a heck of a beard, too. That's one you've been growing for a while.
Yeah, 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
What made you decide to step back into running, doing the half marathons?
I had a buddy of mine. He's run No Business a couple of years. You guys probably know him, Lee Tinch. We started doing some, we did a relay together. Him and my brother-in-law invited me to do a relay out in Oregon called the, what's it called? Cascade Lakes Relay. And it was just a road relay where we ran, maybe 20 miles tops, as a part of a team. And did that and just kind of got hooked on running again and got into the half marathon. I ran, I think, 3 road half marathons, all in Tennessee. I did the Santa Hustle. I've done I can't even remember the ones I've done now. They're all in Tennessee, just half marathons. And then somebody sent me a video of Billy Yang's to watch from YouTube, and it was the one where he ran Leadville in like 2015 or 16. And awesome video. I watched that, and that kind of put the bug in my ear of wanting to get into trails and ultras. And that's kind of what started it all, honestly, was a YouTube video.
Well, I mean, I think almost everybody at some point has watched a Billy Yang video or movie.
Right?
I mean, they're pretty good. You know, I enjoy.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm sitting here looking at your very first race then. So, or your first ultra, I should say. And maybe you ran one before this, because I do know some people have their ultras that are not on ultra sign up. You know, they may have done run sign up or somewhere, but usually I start with ultra sign up. But I see you started with Ozone Endurance Challenge, 24 hours.
That's right. That was the first one.
And went right to 100 miles.
Yeah. So
pretty impressive.
I went from running a half marathon as my furthest race. And then in training, I did a marathon actually at Hall Ridge Park there in Knoxville. I did a training marathon run, and that was the furthest I'd ever run. And then I was planning to go 50 miles at the Ozone Endurance Challenge, the 24-hour. And then somebody put a bird in my ear, or a little bug in my ear. I mean, you guys probably know who Ray Krolowitz is. Coach Ray K. He's like ultra running legend. I knew him from racing cars back in the day. His son and I raced cars together, and he was always at the track. But he sent me a message on Facebook and was like, you know, you might as well just go for 100 miles. It's only like a 14-minute pace. And so I put that in my back of my mind. I told my wife, I was like, you know, if things are going well, maybe I'll go for 100 miles. And I'll keep in mind, I only trained for 50 miles. So it went really well, though. It went really well. I hit 100 miles in 23 hours and I think 13 minutes, I believe. And I stopped because I got to my goal, 100 miles, stopped, and paid the price for not training for 100 miles. I could not run for 3 weeks after that. Like, no joke. For 3 days, I couldn't stand up without like my wife like balancing me, basically. Like, I couldn't go to the bathroom, like stand up and pee in the toilet without my wife holding my shoulder and let it fall over. I paid the price. I was so undertrained, but man, it was an awesome experience.
So you hate yourself for about 3 days after that, and then you're back on ultra sign up thinking, I can find something else.
I can do it again.
Pretty much. Yeah. Definitely looking for the next race.
I know this is a hard question to like go back to 2018 and talk about this, but what was the hardest part of that race? Like, I mean, you go from a half marathon to doing a 24-hour 100 miler. Some people probably still haven't even ran a 2400 or 24-hour 100 miler, you know? So that's pretty good to start out like that right off the bat, to hit 100 miles in under 24 hours. What kind of demons did you face out there?
Honestly, like, looking back, that race it went really well. I don't know if it was my naivete, however you say it, in the sport, you know, my showing my true rookie colors of being the first time I'd ever run longer than maybe 6 hours, 5-6 hours. It went well. I mean, I made all the mistakes during the race that you make. I mean, I was taking naproxen for swelling. You know, I was taking I was drinking so much Tailwind, so much sodium. I was taking salt pills. By the time I finished that race, my ankles were like this big around. They were swollen from so much sodium intake and just lack of training. But during the race, though, I think the hardest time was probably around mile 74-ish, maybe. I started getting a bad hamstring cramp. And luckily that race, you know, it was put on by Will Jorgensen. They don't do that race anymore, but they had a physical therapist on site. And so I went to the main aid station there, because it's a 2-mile loop around a lake, pretty flat. But I went there. The physical therapist worked on me for probably 20 minutes. I think I actually fell asleep on the table while she was working on me. And then I got back out there. And I remember the hamstring cramp was gone, but then like after I got to like 80 miles, I just felt that my shins were on fire, that they were going to break in half. Like, I'd never had pain like that before in my shins. Like, something was wrong. Like, I was breaking my bones is what I felt like. But I pushed on and kept going, and my brother-in-law paced me. He had never run more than, I think, maybe 20 miles tops, and he paced me for like a marathon at the end of it. It was just an awesome experience. I really didn't have any dark demons. Like I didn't get any real low spots, like mentally. It just went really well, aside from me thinking my shins were going to fall off.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So no major stomach issues, anything like that?
Nothing. No, I had no stomach discomfort whatsoever. I ate fine. This was before we went plant-based. So my wife actually went out at some point to a Hardee's and got me a burger and some fries. I remember eating that. She got me some mashed potatoes and like steak from the aid station. They cook real nice food there. And I had that at one point, lots of tailwind, a whole lot of tailwind. But it was, yeah, it went surprisingly well for being so new to the sport.
He had an iron stomach from the start.
Yeah, no kidding.
I've always been blessed with that.
I was going to say that's a game changer.
It is.
So you do your first 24-hour race, you get 100 miles, you're first place overall. So that's definitely a way to start out your ultra career here.
Yeah.
And then you move into, looks like you did some different things. You did the Cloudland Canyon 50K, Georgia Death Race, 68 miler. Did you do it the year before or after me and Kevin did? Because I remember you crewed Kevin.
I think it was before Kevin. So I did it in 2019, and that was when they actually still started in Vogel. And the year after,
you did it during the COVID year.
Y'all started at that farm just outside of Vogel. And yeah, I believe so. But yeah, I think you guys were the year after in COVID.
So it looks like you had 20 hours there, which is pretty good for Georgia Death Race. Most people, I know when I signed up for that race, my goal was just one speed, try to finish. Like I wasn't racing it because I didn't know what it was. I just heard all the horror stories. I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, I was the same way. I really had no time goal. I wanted to get under, I think it was 23 was the Western States cutoff. And that was my goal, just to get my Western States qualifier. And so I went into that just kind of with that goal. That was it. And it went okay. I mean, if I went back now, I know I could do so much better. I mean, just so much better.
Yeah. And that's a pretty good trail to run. It's definitely got the elevation. I mean, it lives up to the hype on the elevation, no doubt.
Yeah, it really does.
How much elevation does that have?
It's like 16.
I was going to say the year that I did it, I think we only ended up with like 65 or 68 miles, but we had almost 18,000 feet elevation.
Oh wow!
Because they had to cut. We did like an out and back, if I remember right, because of COVID. We couldn't do the original course, so we ended up with less miles but more elevation.
I think when I did it, it was 71 miles and like 16,600, I believe, was what it was. That according to my Garmin. Yeah.
Yeah. Which course does he do now? Is it still the out and back? I wonder. I'm not ever.
I honestly don't know what he's doing right now. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so let's jump on forward here. So we got you got a 15K half marathon, then you do the Barkley Fall Classic.
Yeah, I did that twice. Yep.
Now that's a nostalgic race. How did that go?
It went pretty well. I mean, I did really well both years. The first year I did it was 2019, and that was tough. I mean, I think I finished in 10 hours and 20-ish minutes, maybe, I think. Something like that. I could be wrong. You probably have it there in front of me.
Yeah, your first time was 11:18.
11:18, yeah.
11:8. Okay, so the second year was 10:20, I believe. So
yep, exactly.
10:17.
But I think both years I finished like 30th or 31st, something like that, or within the top 40, I believe. Yeah. I can't remember, but it went well. I mean, I remember that first year I was cramping like crazy coming down Meth Lab Hill. I was cramping so bad, and I just thought I wasn't even gonna be able to finish it. So to be able to finish that was awesome. And yeah.
Well, and when you do, and that's what I was getting ready to say, like, when you do that race, you're not running a 50K. Like, when you sign up, it's going to be almost 40 miles because it usually ends up between 35 to 40 miles. You're going to go up Rat Jaw 2 or 3 times.
Yep.
It's going to be painful.
Both years I did it was like 35, 36 miles because I put it into Gaia GPS afterwards, the route, and, just guesstimated. And it was both years about 13,000 feet of elevation gain too. So it's a serious race.
Yeah. Oh, it's an
Yeah.
adventure race is what it ends
Yeah,
up
it's
being.
not. Yeah, it's not a trail race. No, it's more of an adventure race. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you make it out of there not bleeding, that is like
Well, that's all
that's
all the
that.
pictures I see is everybody's got, you know, all these gloves and all this stuff, and there's blood everywhere. And you're like, well,
Oh
okay.
yeah,
I lost my gloves, so that was a huge mistake on
yeah.
the second time up Rat Jaw. But oof.
What year did you do it?
I did it, I think two or 3 years ago. It's been a little while. I think I might have done it in
Okay.
21.
Okay. 2020 was the year they only allowed veterans to come back because it was COVID. So you couldn't be a virgin. You had to have completed it and gotten a Croy at least once. And so I went back. I didn't even sign up for the race, but he posted in the Barkley group, he posted that, hey, they still need some more people. And I was like, well, I've got a Croy. I'll do it again. And he said, okay. So they let me in like 2 weeks to the race. So I did that and got it done. That was a tough year. I think I finished better there, but it was fun.
It's always, I mean, that race is always fun, and you can always expect bad weather. It's going to rain or something.
Yeah. Or be crazy hot. Yeah. I think I got stung by yellow jackets.
You got to do it
too.
at least once.
Yeah, maybe one time.
Yeah, you got. I mean, it's just nostalgic. It's cool to do.
I got a few years to figure that out.
And then even in this race, like you question yourself because it's still not marked.
Yeah.
You're like, if you're not familiar with the area, there was a couple of times I stopped and I'm like, I don't see anybody.
The only time we had an issue with navigation was in 2020, and this was with just veterans. So we were coming down Testicle Spectacle, and there was a turnoff to the left that we were supposed to go to. Like, there's a church down there. We were supposed to go to get like water supply, and we missed the turn. There was literally a sign that was put like there, but when we came back, but we went maybe 200 yards past it. And it was me and 3 other guys. We started looking around like, this doesn't seem right, guys. I think we've gone too far. So we pulled out the little cloth map and looked at where we were. And we all made the choice to go back. And sure enough, there was a sign in the ground laying down. So we picked it up and put it back in and found where we were supposed to go. But yeah, that was the only time we got off. And everywhere else on that, at least the 2 years I ran it, there were rangers or volunteers at like every major intersection where you could probably get lost. And so it was really like they took some of the fun or the difficulty out of it, where if you had never been to Frozen Head State Park before, you could probably go there just fine and do the race. I mean, they might have made it more difficult now, but it was, I was surprised. I was actually really disappointed. They had somebody up by the garden spot sitting at the main turnoff where people always get lost at the garden spot. They had someone there and like, oh no, go this way. I'm like, what the heck? Why did I, come on now.
Yeah, that's the fun part, is getting lost sometimes.
I know, right? Heading down and go.
See, there is a pattern here of weird names of these hills.
Oh yeah.
So what are some of those?
That's just, I mean, I don't know if Laz named them or if that's the names that people have given them, but they are very fitting for that race.
Yeah, it's all after Barkley, so it's just all taken from Barkley. So yeah, you've got Testicle Spectacle, Meth Lab Hill.
Yeah, Rat Jaw is like the big.
I've heard of Rat Jaw, but then he said a couple that I've never heard of.
Well, I'm trying to remember which one. Testicle Spectacle is the one where there's no way to go down it hardly if it's raining without sliding down it.
Yeah.
And literally the year that I did it, it was pouring. It flooded. I mean, it was just raining everywhere, and you would see couples, like there was couples trying to do this race together, and they were holding hands and like they were sliding together, and they were trying to hold each other, and she ended up going off one side of the cliff, and he went off the other, and they were like screaming for each other, and I can't remember. I might have been with Rick, but it was so funny because I just look over and me and him just start laughing, and he videos it. And it's one of his videos on Facebook. It's like them two, a couple we didn't even know. You just see them sliding apart on each side of the mountain, and they're just screaming like, no. But it is so slick. Like there is no way. And
it's crazy.
So the names are fitting for what you're doing.
Yeah.
What was your hardest part of Barkley, you think?
Barkley Fall Classic, the second year, so when it was just the veterans, I was in the lead group of 4 people going up Ratjaw. So there was one guy who was like probably a good 20 minutes ahead of us. And then it was 3 of us, me, Kevin McCabe, and I cannot remember the other guy's name. But we were going up Ratjaw together. So we were the ones breaking trail, clearing the tunnel through the briars. And we caught up with the guy that was in the lead. And it was just the 4 of us literally taking turns, maybe 2 or 3 minutes at a time. Somebody would go through and get all the briars all over you and push, make the tunnel. Then, all right, tag, you're it. And then somebody else would do it. And it took us about an hour and 45 minutes to get up Ratjaw the first time because we were clearing the briars. And then the second time we went up, it was like 50 minutes to getting up it. So I'd say that first time up was the most difficult for sure.
Yeah. I would hate to be out front in that race.
I think I'd stay back just because of that.
That's one where it would pay to wait to be back in the back until the first time up.
That race for me was kind of like Ball State. I was like, I just want to do it once. I just want to do it once. So like, I just enjoyed it. It was kind of like Georgia Death Race. I was like, I don't really know what to expect. So I'm just going to run it. And then I was the same way with Barkley Fall Classic. Ball State, I had higher hopes, but we know how that went.
That's a long way. A lot can happen.
It happened in the first day. We had to regroup for the next 4.
Yeah.
So at this point, you've done 50Ks, 100 milers. You've done Barkley Fall Classic, which I almost consider that an adventure run. But then in 2020, you do your first Last Man Standing.
That's right.
And
Elsie
this race,
Enduro.
Obviously, all 3 of us know about. But tell us a little bit about this event. And you ended up being the last man standing in this. This is a very unique format. So if you don't care, I'm sure some of the people listening have heard us talk about Elsie Enduro, but Steven is actually the very first winner, I believe. That was the very first inaugural year. So.
That's right. The year before you won.
Yep. Tell us about the race. And I'm sure this was being your first last man standing. You probably went through some hard times in this one.
Yeah, I did. So this is different than most last man standing. Most of them are 4.167 miles, where this one is 2.5 miles. And we have 40 minutes for the loop. So you want to come back in and allow yourself enough time to get aid before you go back out. And so my goal for that was to come back in about 32 minutes every time. And I did that probably until the last 2 loops, maybe. I was really consistent, did really, really well. And of course, we had a good year weather-wise. We didn't have to deal with the flooding issues down low where the course gets, washed out or any of that nonsense. So we had really good weather. It was very cold though. I remember it being in the 20s. I believe it was very cold. That was the first year of the race. I did win it, but we only went, I think, I have to look at it's on the other side of the trophy. I think it's 62.5 miles.
Yeah.
So not very far for a last man standing, but it was like 11,000 feet of elevation gain. So there's a lot of climbing in those 2.5 miles.
There is.
Right. I was going to say that it's not the distance that makes this race so hard. It's the fairway and the mountain at the very end.
Yeah.
Like,
either way.
Yeah. So it would be the counterclockwise direction for me when you come up that backside, that climb. That was brutal towards the end. I remember when I had my trekking poles out, and that was tough. The other side, I seemed to deal with that just fine going clockwise, but man, counterclockwise, that was rough. And so that was pretty early on in my ultra. I mean, I had done 200. Well, no, see, this was in February 2020, so I'd only done the 100 miler up to this point, and so pretty early on. And I remember telling my crew, who my buddy Lee was there, my wife Kevin was there, Kevin Bishaw. I'm sure you guys know him. He was there. They were crewing me. I remember coming in at, I think it was about 58 miles. And I told Lee, or I told Kevin, I can't remember who I told. I told one of them, I was like, guys, this is getting like tough. I don't know how much more I can go. And like my legs were just shot from the climbing because I hadn't been climbing that much. And they're like, just keep going, just keep going, man, you're doing great. And so luckily I only had to go 2 more, 2 more to win it. But I remember the last loop, I went out and Kyle, He was with me. He finished second, got the assist, and we went out together. And then I went out a little bit in front of him, and we're just going on. And I came back in, and I had no clue. Apparently, he had gone out a little ways and turned around and came back. I had no clue. So I thought he was just a little bit behind me. So I come in getting ready to go out for the next loop. And there they are, everybody around the start finish holding up the trophy. And like, you're the last man standing. I was like, what? I was like, seriously? Like, I thought we got to go another one. But it was a good experience for sure. A learning experience.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, oh, thank God.
Nice surprise.
Yes, I will take it.
I gotta give them credit though. Like their last man standing awards are really cool. Like
It really is. Yeah.
big block of wood and stuff. They're
And
cool.
the swag you get for like going over 50. When I did it, it was a leather belt that was customized with your initials on it and like had the race logo.
Wow.
I still wear that belt as my main belt when I go somewhere. It's awesome.
Oh wow. Yeah, they don't do
Yeah.
that no more. They
No.
do. Last few years, it's if you go over 50, you get
A
like
hoodie. A hoodie or
a zip up jacket.
And that was a nice looking jacket last year. I like that.
Yeah. So you got hopes to do that race again one day?
I mean, maybe. It's a fun race.
It's a little bit of a travel for you now.
You were signed up for the 2023, weren't you? And then when you moved,
was.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, I was signed up for 2023 and just didn't work out with, we moved. So I would have loved to have gone back and do that. It's one that there's not a whole lot of races that I'd like to do again, but that's one that I would like to do again, just mainly because those guys they run such a good race. I don't know if you ever did the General 100 when they put that on. That was a road relay, but they just did such an awesome job. That was so much fun. I would totally do that one again, but unfortunately they weren't able to put that one on anymore.
Yeah.
I'd never even heard of it.
I hadn't either.
They are good. I mean, they're really
Yeah.
good race directors.
Oh, yeah,
They
I mean-
always have good food. They've always got
Yeah.
good swag. Got great volunteers, and it's a cool location.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Till it rains.
We were able to actually camp there. We camped in the van the night before at the start finish area. They let us pull in. They said the gate was closed. You just have to open it up and then shut it. And they let us. We had permission from them to do it, but that was awesome. They might not do that anymore now because the race has grown a bit since I did it in the first year. But it was fun.
It'll keep growing too. I mean,
It's a great race. It really is.
Mhm.
They're putting on something great there. It's fun.
Yeah.
As much as I want to run it this year, I'm not going to. I shouldn't have ran it last year, but I did. So
Mm-mm.
You got to go back and get another W there.
yeah, I think
think-
that might be on the list for next
The last
year.
2 years, we both came down to top 4.
Yeah, I
you
think-
got second last year,
Yeah,
and then
And
the year
then
before that,
previous-
you got third.
yeah, but I shouldn't
What
have
did
even
it-
ran it last year.
Didn't it go to like 80 something miles last year? What was it?
I think so. Yeah, Kyle.
I know they still haven't. I know it still hasn't gone over 100 yet.
No.
I know my buddy's running it this year, so I'm hoping he can.
No. So last
Do
year,
well.
let's see, 2023. Yeah, Kyle was 67 miles.
Yeah, the year before that,
really?
I think Lucius and Kyle went farther.
Yeah,
Yeah, they went 80.
Yeah, I think
Right.
that was the year that it went the farthest.
I think so.
So yeah, they've not broke 100, but I did see that they're doing something for 100 miles. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw their post. What was that?
Yeah, I feel like I saw something
Yeah.
too, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay, so let's jump in now. So you do the Barkley Fall Classic again, and that's the one where you were telling us about a minute ago, where you were clearing.
Yeah.
You all were the lead pack, which
Yep.
just sounds like a terrible decision to me. But
Yeah,
It was. Yeah.
and then you jump into this race, and I know you got a interesting story on this race because you it was your second 100-miler, but you also got hurt.
Yeah.
If I recall, but that's the No Business 100. You did
Right.
did it in 2020. So at this point, No Business hasn't exploded into what it is at this point, where it's selling out in a day.
Right.
So you were still early stages, but tell us a little bit about this race. And then you had to overcome an injury, which I think happened pretty early on.
Yeah. I think this was the third year of the race, if I remember correctly. Maybe the fourth, but the year prior I had volunteered there. So like No Business is one of those races that I consider that like my home race, or maybe not now that I live in Colorado, but I did when I was in Tennessee. And that was, I was there every year. And in some capacity, running, volunteering, crewing. I was there. And so 2020, I ran it, and that was the clockwise direction. Yeah, clockwise direction. And we were coming down from Twin Arches. There's some stairs coming down Twin Arches that you take, and they're not like your normal stairs. They're like your trail stairs where it's, probably close to 14, 18-inch high. We were coming down there, and there was a group of people moving slower than I wanted to. So I said, hey, I'm going to jump by you. And so I jumped by and ended up going down fast, and too fast and no business. Beautiful race, but the difficult part there is the leaf cover is so great because it's in the fall. The leaves are coming down, hides the trail. And I jumped down one of those stairs, landed on something under leaves, I guess a rock probably. My left ankle went completely to the side, and the guy behind me who was coming down with me, like, he was probably a good, 10 feet behind me. He heard it pop as well. So it was bad. And that was 18 and a half miles into the race. So not what you want in a 100-mile race. But I did limp on for a few miles and let out a string of curse words when it happened because it was incredibly painful. But I limped on for a few miles, and a buddy of mine who was volunteering at the Chariot aid station happened to have some ibuprofen in his truck. So he ran to his truck, got me ibuprofen, and I took that, and that helped a little bit. And I was able to loosen up and continue on. I finished the race. I did finish the race in, I think, 27 hours and 6 minutes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so I finished that. And honestly, I attribute that finish to the race doctor, Derek. I cannot remember his last name, but that guy is amazing. He's there like every year. And I made it into Blue Heron, which was like mile 60 in the race in that direction. And I went to him. He was there. And so he's checking my ankle out. And I mean, it was massive. It was huge. It was purple. And he's looking it over, and he looks at me, he's like, I can tape it up, and you can do this little 6-mile loop, the Blue Heron loop we had to do, and come back to this aid station and see how it feels. He's like, it's going to hurt. He's like, I can give you a little pill a steroid pill for the inflammation, and some Tylenol for the pain. And so I took that, and I asked him, I was like, am I going to hurt this worse? And he's like, no. He's like, you're not going to hurt it worse. He's like, you already destroyed it. It's ruined. And I mean, most doctors wouldn't even let you go back out, but he was like, it's up to you. If you want to go back out and deal with the pain, you can. He's like, you're not going to make it worse. So I did. I went out and I finished it. And sure enough, I actually had torn the tendon in the ankle. I believe the peroneal brevis tendon in the ankle. So yeah, that took me out for a while after I was out for probably a good 3 months afterwards, just recovering, healing that ankle. One of those times where it's like, I finished the race, I got the buckle, I'm super proud of it and how I did with dealing with the pain and just, finishing, grinding it out. But it's also, perspective, looking back and knowing like, if I had stopped right when I rolled it, the next aid station dropped, maybe it might not have been so bad and takes a little so long to recover. And it's like, was it the right choice? It was a dumb choice, but I did it and I finished. And so I'll just ride that.
Hey, you got the buckle. I mean, that counts.
Exactly.
I don't know if there is a right choice, and I don't know if you're ever gonna, because I have the opposite. I wish that now I'm like, maybe I should have just walked and like finished mine, but it's funny when you talk to different people, because Lauren did the same thing. The first year she did no business. She, broke her ankle. She didn't finish, and she went back this year for her redemption, or this past year and won.
Yeah.
But I mean, that race at that time of year, you're 100% correct. You do not see where you're stepping.
No.
I mean, there were so many leaves in some of those sections. Like it's done. Like I
remember this year in the counterclockwise direction, I've somewhere between Blue Heron and Bandy. I can't remember where, because it all kind of blurs together. But I remember literally we were going through probably 10 inches or more of leaves, just that deep, where you're just shuffling along and you're pushing leaves out of the trail. It's ridiculous. So that's why that on paper, if you look at it, like you look at the elevation profile, you look at where it's at, this can't be that difficult of a race. But man, it's so underestimated. It is a difficult race.
Yeah, it's more technical than you would think.
Yeah, it
Like
really
it
is.
really is. And then we had that monsoon this year too, so it was nice for
Yeah.
it was nice to street crossings, and the bridges
Oh, it was
were
brutal.
extremely slick, man. They were so slick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and this year we couldn't even go across the bridge. This year we had to go through the river or the creek there at Big South Fork.
hey, and that's the picture we used of you too. I don't know if you noticed that.
Nice. No, I didn't even see it.
So that was like probably your first true 100-mile trail race then, right? Like No Business was, I guess, we're talking through it. Because you did the loop race, which, not taking away from a loop race, but a loop race is still different than doing a 100-mile point race. They're both hard in different ways.
Yes, absolutely.
Different. So what did you think, like, with No Business overall, like, was that at this point, was that like your hardest race just because of the ankle, or was it because of other things?
It was for sure the hardest race at that point. I mean, it was like you said, it's really the first. I mean, Georgia Death Race is a difficult race, and it's a mountain race. No Business is also a mountain race, and it's just the distance makes it more difficult, even though it's less elevation gain than Georgia Death Race. To me, it's more difficult. But I noticed for me, mile, I don't know, 85-ish, somewhere between like Spring Branch and Bald Knob, the first year I did it, I noticed that, like, maybe at mile 75-ish at Ozone, my ankles felt like they were falling off, where that pushed out maybe 10 miles later this time in 2020. And so the pain threshold increased and got better. And I've noticed that with every race so far that's happened. Hey, if I interrupted, you maybe cut this out, but I think my camera battery is about to die. If it does, I'll put a new battery in it and hopefully be right back up. So
no worries at all.
Okay.
Thank you. So with you doing No Business 100, you do that, and then your ankle's messed up, so it doesn't look like you race again until January. So you obviously took some time off to let that heal up.
Yeah.
Were you able to run or train at all before you jump into your next race?
So No Business was October, maybe 15th.
All right. So with No Business, you finish it in October. You turn around and you do Snowbird Challenge 50K in January. So were you able to start training a month or two before this race, or did you go from, oh, my foot's healed, I want to run?
I was able to run. I'm trying to think when I started. I think I started running in December, so I took pretty much all the rest of October off, and then I took most of November, I believe, off. And then in December, I started running at some point, only on roads, stayed off the trails completely just to protect the ankle. And that Snowbird race was basically, half of it was a trail per se, but it's not much of a trail. So it was basically a path, and then some of it was paved.
Well, you finished second overall. You had a really good time, 3 hours 52 minutes. So
well, don't let that time deceive you. Can't let the time deceive you. So that race is similar to Elsie, except it's not a last man standing. So it was a 2.5-ish mile loop as well, I believe. And you had 40 minutes to do it. And so each loop, and then the next loop you would just start, and everybody would start again in a big crowd, and you'd go. So there was no last man standing. But so every 40 minutes you were fresh, because I was running that 2.5 at like a 7:30 pace or faster. I was running fast. So I'd come back in like 20 minutes, and I'm just like, oh, I'm going to get my feet kicked up, get a sandwich made and rested and ready to go. So that's why I finished so fast at that race, because it only took your actual racing time for that, not the aid time or the transition time.
Well, that's a different format. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, you don't hear of that very often.
No, that's pretty neat.
So then you jump into Yamacraw 50K, that's a pretty tough race. You do that one
right before Yamacraw, though. So I was that was April. Is that right? Is that when that one race was?
May 22nd.
May 20th. Okay. So I was on a training run between Snowbird and Yamacraw, and I think this was in March. Yeah, it would have been March because it was right before Barkley. And I was out on a training run out on the Cumberland Trail, and I rolled my right ankle severely, like severely, severely, where I heard another pop. I don't think I tore anything, but
Here
it
we
was
go
bad.
again.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And so I had to take another, I think like 6 weeks off. And so I came into Yamacraw basically with a goal of just finishing. I had no time hopes whatsoever. I was like, this is going to be rough because I'm way out of shape.
Well, yeah, I mean, you didn't do too bad. 6 hours, 27 minutes. You were still
No, that's a good
19th
50K
overall.
time.
It's not bad
It
at all.
wasn't bad. Yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean, if I was healthy and trained, I could definitely do better. But I was just glad to finish it without rolling another ankle.
You know, that's the one thing trail running does for you.
Yep.
You develop rubber ankles
You
after
have
a
to.
while.
Yeah.
Gosh, I tell you, yeah, that's my weakness is my left ankle.
Oof. Is that still from like when you hurt it the first time, or has it always been your left ankle?
I know I rolled an ankle in college playing basketball, and I don't remember which one it was, but I would wager it was probably my left. That maybe that's what started it all. I don't know. Yes, in running, I think I've rolled my left ankle at least 4 or 5 times, pretty severely, and the right ankle once. So definitely the left side is
Yeah.
the weakness.
Yeah.
So you played college basketball?
No, this was just a pickup game.
Oh, okay. I thought we
No,
were going.
I could not play.
All right. So then we do Laurel Highlands Ultra. That's a
Yeah.
75-mile race. You do fairly well at it. Golden Gate Trail Classic. Then you do 100K Beaver Head Endurance Runs. So
Yeah, it's a
you
great
get through a
race.
string here now. You're getting into a string of longer distances.
Yep.
Then you come out and do our race, and you won our race, Fort Frenzy, 12 hours,
Right.
which the middle of summer. So how did
Yeah.
your stomach do during that race?
It did fine. I honestly did awesome. It was great. I had a good plan. I went in with I think spring energy gels, and I had made I can't remember what I made. I made something and put it in a cooler. Maybe it was some pasta. I think it was pasta. And I had it in a cooler there for me to eat, like, when I needed it. And luckily, Melinda Honkus, she had finished her race and she stuck around for a little bit and kind of crewed me a little bit. You helped me out a lot too. You got me some waters and stuff. It was good to have some support there. But no, my stomach was, I don't remember any issues really with my stomach at all at that race. My stomach has never let me down except for one race, which we'll probably get to in a little bit, but it's always done really well.
That's awesome, especially in this kind of heat.
Yeah.
You know, that's normally what gets people is
Yeah.
their stomach goes bad in this heat. But you managed it really well, and you had Francesca like right on your heels the whole day.
Yes.
So y'all were, I mean, just every hour on the hour, just go.
I know. It was a good race.
So I got a question there. We always like to ask people when they do the fort, was it harder than you expected, or was it, kind of what you expected?
I'd say it was more difficult. It was harder because I wasn't expecting that elevation gain, I guess, from that course.
Yeah.
I think it ended up being like, it was over 7,000. I don't remember what for I think I did 58, 62. How many miles did I do there? I don't remember.
You did 58.4.
58.4. Okay, so I think it was like 7,500 feet, 7,800 feet of elevation gain.
Yeah, it's a little deceiving.
Yeah, I mean, you think that little fort there, I mean, there can't be that much elevation there, but there it is. And it was technical in a couple places, but it was a good race. It was a really fun race. I definitely recommend people do. But it was definitely more challenging. I think I went in underestimating the course.
Because we've heard that from numerous people. Once they get out there and they start running, they're like, okay, this is more difficult than we expected. Which, it's great to hear when, from a race director standpoint, that it's a little harder than what people, they just look at it. But
yeah.
Well, you did great. You managed it well.
Yeah.
58 miles, that's pretty impressive in 12 hours on that course. And like I said, with the heat.
I think that's the course record, isn't it? 58 miles for the 12 hour.
I feel like
No,
somebody
I
had
think, I
60.
think
Oh yeah,
Francesca has
the year
60,
before.
60 something. Yeah, she
Yeah.
had one more.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
year
somebody had
That,
60 something.
that was the year before.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
think it was as hot. It was a little crazier of a storm that year that she
So
ran.
yeah, that year I did the 12 hour. Yeah, I was racing against her in the 12 hour. She was lapping me like
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do this race every year, and we always laugh about it because we expect like just the worst weather. Like
Yeah.
it's going to come a storm.
It's a tough time of year. Yeah.
So now we're moving up to your longest distance at this time. So now we finished Fort Frenzy, you win it, and then you go straight into, so that's in August. And in October, you jump into the 48-hour Ozone Endurance Challenge. And
Yep.
you went 136 miles and you finished first place overall. So tell us a little bit about that event. And so just to remind everybody, this is Steven's very first 100-miler. This is the same course. So,
Right.
Now we're doing double the distance. So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Same course. I did the 24-hour the first time. This time was the 48. And it went really, really, really well until it didn't. Like all races. I mean, honestly, I had a plan in place. I was doing a run walk. I believe I was running either 8 minutes or 10 minutes, and then walking 2 minutes, and like clockwork right from the start. So even when your legs are super fresh, I was being very diligent and staying to my plan, and that went incredibly well. I mean, I PR'd my 50 miler. It was 9 hours and change. I PR'd my 100 miler. It was like I think I did 122 hours and 40 something minutes on that same course. And then after 125-ish, I stopped at the aid, took care of my feet because I was getting some pretty nasty blisters on the toes. Had to pop those, wrap them up, and it was still going really well at this point. Like 125 miles in, I think this was like maybe 30 hours. Around that point, 32-ish hours maybe. It was going really well, and I went out, and maybe somewhere around mile 130, I started getting like a really bad pain in my right, like hip flexor, TFL kind of area. And so, I had my poles at this point trying to help a little bit going. And it's a very flat course. I think for the whole time, I had like 7,000 feet of elevation gain for like 136 miles. So it's pretty darn flat.
Yeah, it's pretty flat.
Yeah. And so I was going along, and the pain just kept getting worse. And then my wife went out to pace with me for a couple miles, and the pain just got so bad. Like, I remember there's a section where there's a little incline. I mean, it wasn't much of an incline at all. I mean, we're probably talking a 20-foot climb, not much. But at that point, I was in so much pain. I was literally in tears, like crying on the flat part because it was so painful. I couldn't pick up my right leg at all. Like, and I don't mean like I couldn't pick it. I mean, I literally couldn't pick it up like that far off the ground, like an inch. I was dragging it on the ground flat. I just had no control of my right hip flexor. I couldn't do anything. So I limp around to the start finish, and this is that race where they have the physical therapist. So I spent more time with Jeannie, I think it is, or I believe it's Jeannie. It might be Jeannie. I'm totally butchering her name. I'm sorry, I forget it now. But I spent more time with her there in aid for probably a good 30 minutes. I mean, she tried her best. She did all sorts of crazy stretches. I was in pain while she's doing these to me, like sticking her elbow into like the TFL while she's bending my leg. And she tried her best, and I could not pick up that leg at all. So with this race the way it is, if you want to take a nap, you can. So I told the RD, and he was like, "Why don't you go back to your tent, try to rest for a little bit, see if it gets better." So I did. I went back. I think I took like 2 hours to try to nap. And so this was like probably around hour 34, I guess. Took around 2 hours to try to take a nap, see if maybe it would loosen up, and maybe at least the physical therapist could work on it then at that point, and it might do something. And I couldn't sleep. I was in so much pain. I'm rolling around in my van, or probably wasn't even rolling around. I was just in so much pain. And eventually I hobble out of the van and go to my tent. We hit sidewalls on like a 10 by 10 canopy, and my crew was in there resting. And I opened up the sidewalk. It was cold. And I told him, I was like, "I'm done, guys. I can't pick up my leg. I can't do anything. And so they drove me back around to the start finish and saw the RD, and Tom was like, I gotta stop. I can't do anything. And this was only 36 hours into a 48-hour race, and so I was bummed because I had big goals. Like my worst case goal was like 150 miles, and I didn't even do that because my hip failed me. And I wanted to try to get 180, close to 200 miles, and just the hip took me out. And luckily, I mean, I was still able to win it overall, which I was really surprised. There were some pretty decent runners there, turning off some miles, but a lot of them were in the 96 hours, just killing it, getting like 300
Yeah.
miles. But it was tough. It was definitely the worst to be feeling where it's like my legs were fine strength wise. I could have easily kept going. It was that darn stinking hip that just I couldn't pick up the leg. And like the strength was there. I wasn't tired. I was staying awake. I didn't think I was taking caffeine pills at that point. It was just the stinking hip took me out. Yeah, it was frustrating.
I think I went up there and paced Mike for the 24 hours. And I
Yeah.
remember them talking about it. They were like, Steven, something's wrong with Steven. Something's wrong. We're like, okay. I think you parked on the other side of the lake, didn't you?
Yeah, we were on like the opposite of the start finish.
Yeah. And I think when I was running my mic, and we would look in like, oh, he's not got up or he's not got up. And then eventually they told us that you had called your race and you were heading out. But
yeah, it was rough. I remember seeing Mike. He was running really well. I forget how many miles he was in, but he was moving really well.
yeah.
So your goal was your A goal was like 200 miles.
I would say realistically, probably 175, 180 was the A goal. Yeah.
Okay. And did you just pick that number in your brain, or did you have like training to back it up, and you were like, I can get this? You put some math and numbers to it, or did you just pull
it was.
Or did you just pull a Matthew and say, I'm gonna do this?
Hey, we're hitting 300 today. That's all we're doing.
No, it was definitely backed by training and numbers. I've been training with Vert.Run. They're my coach platform that I use, and so I've been with them for many years. And at this point, I've been with them for like 2 years. So I talked to my coach and crunch numbers myself and just think, what I felt like. And I think my biggest issue was the strength. I needed to do more strength training, and specifically in the hips, the glutes, the trunk. That's every runner's main weakness, really. I didn't do hardly. If I did strength training, it was maybe once a week, and it was like a 15-minute quick video kind of thing. It wasn't any serious strength training. So, but definitely put some numbers together, and I felt that 170 was probably realistic. I could probably get that, and maybe 175, maybe 180 if things were just really, really good. 150, I felt like that was a walk in the park. Like there should be no reason I shouldn't get 150, except for my hip. I had other plans.
That's again, we say it a lot in this show, but that's the beauty of an ultra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know. And
exactly.
Rob Apple to my day is still my favorite person to ask of like, Rob, what number is this race going to be for you? And I don't know if you follow Rob Apple, but he just got 800. So he just finished his 800 ultra. So
wow.
But
I remember running with him at your race.
Yeah, he's awesome. He truly is, and he's so humble. But what I love about him, he's like I said, 800 races. You'll ask him today, what number will this be for you this weekend, Rob? If I finish 801, and he always says that, if I finish, and and
that's awesome.
And Rob's not out here running 100 milers anymore. He's doing 50Ks and timed events, and and he still says that. So he knows, and he's learned through all those years. And to me, that's like really humbling to think about, because it doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't.
Right?
All the training in the world is not going to fix a hip going bad or turning an ankle or, anything. And then when you get it in your head, and especially when you get it in your head, you're like you said it, 150 should be no problem.
Yeah.
And then you're so let down. Like you're so bummed because you're like, I didn't even get 150,
I know.
that's so hard to not do too, because you put all this time and effort into it, you know, like,
Yeah.
it's not like this is our daytime jobs. We're training and
No.
doing the things we can after hours with, you know, around our families, doing this stuff. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of discipline. And when you put that in and then you turn around and you don't get close to your goal, man, that brings you back down to reality. Like, it
Yeah.
makes you want to, I don't know how you all are, but for me, I'm like, I got to fix this.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Totally. Oh, 100%. And like, honestly, like, it's probably good that it did happen in hindsight, because it did show me a really significant weakness in myself that I need to improve. And I'm taking it very seriously now. I've got a strength coach. I'm doing almost 3 hours in the gym every week. So
Great.
I'm taking it real serious. I'm trying to get strong
Well,
for a big
that was
goal.
going to be my next question is, did you learn anything from this experience? Like, what did you learn?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly. I mean, I learned that I need to take strength training serious. Runners, and I can't speak for everybody, but it seems like if you have a training plan and it says go out and run an hour and then do 30 minutes in the gym, runners are going to be like, oh man, today's a busy day at work. I'm going to go squeeze in my miles. I got to go get that hour run in. And you skip the run and you skip the gym. You're like, oh, I got to get those miles. It's all about volume, volume, volume. And like to me, it's just had a light in my a light go off in my brain, I guess, and it's not all about volume. Like I know now I can complete a 100-mile race on quite a bit less training than I had previously been doing, but I need that strength training. That's important. So I'm really making a point now to not skip those gym workouts, not choose mileage over gym. I need to get the strength. I need to take care of these issues if I want to do bigger things, which I do.
Yeah.
I know it, dude. I'm proud of you for saying that, because a lot of people don't think that running and lifting go together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what helped me in 2022 do the things that I did. And I didn't lift as much in 2023 and stayed hurt and everything else. And that's why you see me lifting as much as I am again. Like I'm lifting 3, 4, or 5 days a week now with my running, because I realized that was my weakness, and in those races that you don't get that A goal, and sometimes not even your B or C goal, wakes you up to be like, I earned this, I earned exactly what I got.
Yeah, and, absolutely.
It's you got to have that humbling experience, and
that's very true.
I may have it again here soon. I'm doing my first marathon in March, so we'll see how this goes. But that's one of the reasons you see me lifting and running a lot right now.
I've only done one road marathon, and that'll be enough.
That was good.
Okay. I'm right there with you. I'm doing one, and I'm probably never going to do
You did the Knoxville one, right, last year?
I did Knoxville, yeah. Is that which marathon are you doing now, David?
I'm doing Chattanooga, the Erlanger one in March.
Oh, okay. Oh, I've heard that's a good one.
What was your time at Knoxville last year?
3:15, 3:16, I think.
That's great.
I finished 15th overall, which I was incredibly surprised, because like there's some fast people in Knoxville, so maybe they didn't decide to race that year. But I did well, but no, I was struggling that. That was tough. I had the typical hitting the wall at like mile 23 and walking up that one hill of the bridge. Like it was rough.
So did y'all run it together?
Yeah, we ran. We ran it together.
I probably saw you. I was there with Mary. Like me and her were like
running
the whole course, trying to follow Mike and Matt and everybody else. So I'm sure
I remember seeing you at some point yelling at me as I was going by.
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
I don't even know what I was like 20th overall or something. 25th.
Nice.
I think I don't know what my time was.
You keep adding 5 to this number, Matt.
No, I think that it was.
I was 10th,
probably
20th.
We had been really close. We had been pretty darn close together then.
We were close together.
Yeah, what was your time? You remember?
I thought it was 3:11:12. I don't know.
Oh, it couldn't have been. No, it couldn't have been unless you were higher than 15 overall. Because no, I was 3:15 or 3:16.
Matt's looking now.
I can't remember what.
That's good though. So did you train specifically for a marathon to get ready for that?
Oh yeah. I was doing all the typical road speed work, and in training I did a half marathon time trial, which I'm still really proud of that time. But this I finished a half marathon time trial with like 600 feet of elevation gain. It was like a 1:30 seconds. So I just missed getting under 1:30. I really wanted that, but man, I was happy with that. I was pleased.
Hey, that's great, man. Huge
I
accomplishment.
couldn't I couldn't come anywhere near that now. I'd be lucky to get a 1:45.
There is a big difference between endurance running
Yes,
and training for a half or a marathon. I've realized that because I don't ever run.
absolutely.
Yeah, I finished 3:11:47.
Oh, and you beat me. You had to have been higher than 15th overall.
No, it says I was 29th overall.
What? I could have sworn I was like 16th overall in that race. They must have changed. Added some other.
Let's see. Let's go look at the actual official.
We're looking at gender place, maybe. Possibly. It could have been 15th overall male.
Maybe. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Move on.
So now we move into the Country Mile 48 hour, the Silver Rush.
Wow.
Go ahead.
That Country Mile never happened. I didn't even show up to that race. I need to contact the RD because he's got me on there as a DNF or like 2 miles. I never even showed up to that race.
9 miles. That's
you got 9 miles.
Show up. You're like,
yeah, I didn't even show up. I was in Colorado. I didn't even like show up.
You know what happened? Your bib got set somewhere and got scanned a few times. That's probably what happened.
Probably was it.
I wasn't even there.
There's this box of bibs though that every RD has that they set down somewhere, and every now and then one of them randomly gets scanned, and it was yours.
That's true. Yeah.
So the Country Mile, you didn't even run, but somehow you got 9 miles, which is an impressive feat in its own. You did Silver Rush, and then I think this is a race that's probably been on your bucket list for a while that I'm seeing here. I actually I watched your YouTube documentary on this not too long ago. Well done, by the way. But Leadville 100.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. Definitely one that's been on the bucket list. I mean, that's the video I watched that got me into ultra running was Billy Yang's video on Leadville, and of course I've watched so many other videos on Leadville and just wanted to do it, and I got super lucky. Somebody that follows my YouTube channel contacted me and actually donated their volunteer hours to me, so I was able to get into the race because I missed the actual lottery. I didn't get in, but because I had the volunteer hours, they were able to get me in. So that was awesome. I mean, so cool. And I mean, the race went fairly well. Didn't go great. I mean, it's a high altitude race. It's, we go up over 12.5 twice. You're up above 10. I think the average elevation of the race was like 11,100, something like that. So it's a high altitude mountain race, and it's tough. It's very tough. I trained on the course, a good bit of the course leading up to it, because I live, 3 hours from Leadville, a little less than 3 hours from Leadville. So I had the opportunity to do that and got up and over Hope Pass in training and thought, okay, this is tough, but I can do this. And in the race, man, just, I don't know, because it was at that point going up Hope Pass would have been 45-ish miles into the race. It's a lot different than doing it when your legs are fresh on a training run and you've been out there for 10 hours already. So it was tough. And then the backside of Hope Pass it's so steep. I mean, I can't even tell you. I don't even know percent grade how steep it is, but it is incredibly steep. And so that was brutal, and it kind of all slowed down a lot at that point. I was on pace for my 25-hour goal until pretty much Hope Pass, which makes or breaks you. And I got back over it, got to my crew back in Twin Lakes, and they took care of me, got me what I needed, and got me back out there with my pacer. And that's the race where my stomach turned on me. And I think a lot of it was mainly the altitude combined with just the duration at altitude. And I was using a new nutrition product, which worked really good for shorter stuff, but I kind of found after about like 6 hours, it just was too sweet and my stomach did not want that. So I kind of had to get away from it. But yeah, I made it back into May Queen aid station, which was like mile 88. And I ended up throwing up twice. First time I've ever thrown up in a race. In training, never thrown up, never had issues. I was sitting there I've been feeling really nauseous for a while, not able to really take many calories. Was drinking a little bit of water. And I just got there and I remember, like, you can see in my video, I'm like, I think I say, like, I need caffeine. I'm like, I was so tired for some reason, just crazy tired. And I get up to go, and I was like, just turned around and threw up twice in the bushes. Just lost it. And at that point, I couldn't eat at all. I finished the race without being able to eat anything the last 12 miles. I was finally able to sip some water when we were on 6th Street to the finish. So it was pretty much, we walked almost all of that last 12 miles, and I did finish, luckily, but that was definitely the toughest race to date.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you think it was, so with that being said, is it the toughest because overall the terrain, or because of the altitude and the sickness and the stomach issues?
I mean, the altitude is such a variable that you just can't really account for. I mean, I train at altitude. I live at 6,700 feet, and I, knew this was Leadville, or it was up high, so I was routinely up over 12,000 feet. I went up to 14,000 feet a couple of times. So I mean, I was at altitude, but I wasn't at altitude for 20 hours plus.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference than just doing it for a 6-hour training run. So I think the altitude makes it incredibly difficult. The terrain is very technical in places, very technical. A lot of rocks and roots, but then there's other areas that are super easy runnable. So it's just a combination of the distance. It's 100 miles at altitude. It's tough.
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, probably. I didn't apply this year at all. Didn't try. There's other things I wanted to do, but it's definitely a race I would do again. I don't know. It's crazy because it's one of those races that's so popular, and it's like, one of the oldest 100-milers. There's a lot of history there. Being a part of it, such a huge race where you come into an aid station and there's hundreds of people there cheering you on, if not thousands of people cheering you on. It's electric. It's amazing. But I got to say, I was really, really disappointed in the aid stations. I did all three. I did 3 Leadville races this summer, all 3 lifetime races: the trail marathon, the 50-miler, and the 100-miler. All 3 of them, their aid stations are, you better come prepared with your own stuff. Let's just say that. If you like goo products, it's not like back east. Like your guys' aid stations, no business. I mean, shoot, they're cooking pancakes. You got eggs, you got all sorts of soups and chowders, and it's a buffet. There, It was not at all. Which I knew that ahead of time, so I planned for that. I had a crew with all my stuff, but definitely a little disappointed in the aid stations.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about 100-miler. You want some really good food on occasion, and when you're living on goos and chews, it becomes rough.
So, Steven, I figured out the marathon thing a while ago. You ran it in 2022 as well. That's when you ran it, right?
Right.
And I ran it that year as well. And then you did get it in 3-something. I got it 3:21. And then last year I did it. And then I got it in 3:11 in 2023. That's what it was.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, that's an awesome time, man. 3:11. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was rough. But we got 4 more of them this year, so we'll see what we can do.
One.
Yeah.
One.
That's what he says.
Yeah, we'll see. And so then we finish it off. You come back to No Business 100 this past year, and you finished without an ankle injury, and you did it in 24 hours and some change. So, congratulations. Yep. How was that race experience this year compared to the year of the ankle?
So much better. I mean, just so much better. It went great. I ran that race according to plan. I was a little slower in the night section between somewhere after Blue Heron to somewhere after Bandy to towards Blue. No, which direction were we going? Now from Blue Heron to Bandy. Sorry, we're going that direction.
Yeah.
It was all at night, and I ran that section with Derek Baker, who's a crazy stout, awesome runner. He's done No Business, I think, 3 times. Beast of a guy. But we ran a little bit slower than I would have wanted, but I think that was my fault because I was really kind of in a low spot maybe or just struggling there, and he stayed with me, and which was awesome. And I appreciated it. It was cool to have him stick with me. But after that, I got to my crew, got some caffeine pills in me, woke up, and I just finished that race so strong. I mean, I was running at times I was running 8:30, 9 minute pace on those gravel roads.
Wow.
Mile 95 into the race. I was clicking off 10-minute miles, 11-minute miles. So I ran that so well, and I found that that shin pain I had in prior races, there was none of that. There was none of that at Leadville. My legs were used to it at that point. It had become not easy, but it had become less difficult. I knew what to expect. My body was used to it. So I didn't have any of those pains that I had. I finished that race feeling like I could have run more.
So I noticed that you ran this race in the Speedlands to begin with, and then you had some issues and switched back to your Speed Goats.
Yes.
So tell me about
Well,
that.
I switched to the Mafate Speed 4s.
Okay.
So yeah, the Speedlands, I tested those. I've tested them here in Colorado. They did fine in the dry environments. Did really, really well. So I figured this might be a pretty awesome shoe to try no business in. So I started out in those, and I mean it was so wet. The creeks were high. We crossed our first creek under 2 miles, and feet were already soaked. Then pretty much the whole race, the feet were wet. And inside those shoes, they have such a wide platform that my foot, even with cinching the BOA system down, my foot was sliding around inside the shoe, and it was hitting the lip on the insole. And so I got the worst blisters I've ever had in my life on my big toes and my pinky toes. I mean, they were not pinky toe. I'm sorry, the outer heel was doing the same thing. And the worst blisters I've ever had. They were massive. So I got to my crew finally at mile 77, and I changed shoes and put the Hoka Mafate Speed 4s on because those, I mean, I've run 300-mile races in those now, and they're awesome shoes. I knew they were going to take care of my feet.
Yeah, I did a shoe change much earlier.
Had I been able to get to my crew sometime after Blue Heron, I would have absolutely changed those shoes because
I was following you along, and I saw where you posted that. You're like, finally, I got these different shoes, and now you're ready to go. I'm like, oh well, hopefully that doesn't happen to me when I start running in my Speedlands.
Well, hopefully you have a wider foot than me. My foot's, I guess, too narrow for the shoes.
I have a narrow foot. That's why I was worried. But they've done all my training runs. They've done great. Like I've not had any problems, but I've also not ran 100 miles. So.
For me, it was when they got wet. In the dry, they were fine, but definitely go run through some creeks and then go run for a few hours and see how they feel.
Well, we'll be doing a lot of that in June and July.
Yeah,
getting ready for some stuff.
Nice.
Well, so what's your big race for 2024? Like, have you got one picked out yet?
Yeah, I've got 4 races on the calendar already. All ultra distances. I'm super excited. I got 100K in April in South Colorado. Then I've got another backyard race. So I'm going to go back to the backyard format, but this is a true backyard, 4.167 miles. And it's in Ouray, Colorado, or Ouray, however you want to say it, at 7,700 feet elevation. And that's in May. So I'm going there with hopes of, going at least 150 miles, getting the legs ready. We'll see what happens to the body. I'm in the gym now. Like I said, I hired a strength coach. I'm in the gym 3 days a week, 2.5 to 3 hours a week on top of my running. Focused solely on running specific type stuff. So getting stronger, which is going to be huge. Hopefully that'll fix the hip issue. But then after that, I've got the Never Summer 100K in July. So all of these races are in Colorado. That's a good mountain race too. That's 100K. That's something like 18,000 feet of elevation gain, maybe 20,000 feet. It's all high altitude too. It's all but like 10, 11,000. So it's high. And then my big goal for this year is I signed up for my first 200-mile race. So I've got the Sangre de Cristo 200-miler in September, and that's here in Colorado. It's an odd format where it's it's like two different out and backs that you do a couple times. I think one of them's like an 8 mile out and back, and the other one's like a 43 mile, I think, out and back. So you have one central spot you can crew from and kind of see your crew, which I think will be good for my first 200. So yeah, that's the big goal, the 200 miler this year.
Oh, that's definitely a big goal.
Yeah, and it's not flat. I think there's like I want to say 38,000 feet of elevation gain.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's high too. I think the average elevation of that race is right at just under 10,000 feet. So it'll be fun.
You're going to feel that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be spending a lot of time at altitude and training.
Yeah, that strength training will pay off for big time for that race.
Yeah. I sure hope. Yeah.
In Ouray, that's where Walt lives. He lives in.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm. And I'm
actually, you know what? He might be the guy that won it last year.
No, he doesn't do too great in back.
Oh, okay.
But he did say he was going to go do another one this year.
I wonder if he does that.
Oh,
I wonder if he'll do that in the backyard.
Oh, I wouldn't see why not. Yeah.
Look and see if his name's on here. No, I don't see it.
Okay.
Well, oh no, he is on there. It is Walt.
Yeah, there he is.
Walter. Nice.
Yep.
See, he's right there.
You talk to Walt. Walt's an interesting guy, man. He's awesome. You'll love him.
Definitely. Well, hopefully we'll be out there for a long time together.
You can't miss him. He's kind of shorter and kind of jacked.
If you have not listened to his podcast that we did, you've got to listen to it because he's the gentleman that finished Ball State and walked barefoot and then found flip-flops.
Oh, wow.
So
nice.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch gears for just a minute, and then we'll finish off with some questions. We'll let Matt get the questions ready.
Mm-hmm.
But while we're switching gears real quick, tell us, you've got your YouTube channel. You've been doing it for a few years now, but tell us how you got started into YouTube, and you seem to be doing pretty successful. Your last video was really well done. I think it was
Thank you.
Your documentary. It was Leadville 100, I believe, was your latest one. But yeah, tell us about how you got started.
Yeah, the Leadville documentary was the last big documentary. I mean, I did one for No Business and some other stuff here. I post weekly, but I got into it honestly just wanting to share my passion for trail and ultra running and try to get more people to go from road to trail was kind of where it started. I wanted them to, because I started on the road and I found trail and just fell in love with just being out in nature, the peaceful, serene mountains or trails. And, and back in Tennessee, it was the tunnel that you're in, because you're in the tree cover the whole time, and, just the beauty in that, and just wanted other people to see that. And so I was just doing, trail videos of my runs and started out doing that, and took a while to get a couple, a little bit of subscribers here and there. And then I connected with some shoe brands, and they decided to send me some shoes to review, and it kind of turned into, I do a lot of shoe reviews now, a whole lot of shoe reviews, watch reviews, race videos, other reviews that are somehow related to trail and ultra running or running in general. So yeah, it's grown well. This is my 4th year. In May will be 4 years on YouTube, and I think I'm over 21,000 subscribers now. So it's growing. Love everybody that's watched and subscribed and been part of it, but it's definitely maybe slower than I would have hoped, but just like running, it takes a while sometimes to get up to steam.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're doing great now. 20,000 plus subscribers. That's awesome, man. And I mean, that means you're putting out content that people want to see.
Yeah.
And
it's going well. I try to release it.
When you're doing stuff like that, you're learning. I mean, you're getting better. So as you're getting better, you're getting subscribers. So, I mean, you've stuck with it. You've done a great job.
I can't even go back and watch my own videos from the first year. Just they're horrible. I never deleted them. They're still on YouTube. So anybody can go back and watch and see because you're right. I mean, I continue to grow and get better at editing and trying new things, new equipment, and just like in running, it's a journey where you don't start out running 2,000 miles a year, 3,000 miles a year, 4,000 miles a year. You start out and you run maybe 20 miles a month, and that's huge because you've never done that before.
Yeah.
And then you get 500 miles in a year, and you just get better and better and better and better and better. It's the same way on YouTube.
So if people want to follow your YouTube channel, it's Ultra Trail Steven. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right. Ultra Trail Steven on YouTube, and I'm also on Instagram, Ultra Trail Steven.
Awesome. Well, like I said, great job on your latest one. I've watched No Business and Leadville, and even just from No Business to Leadville, it's a huge improvement. Like, you just keep getting better, and it's probably as you're playing with different cameras and gear, but keep it up, man. You're doing great. It'll really explode at some point in the near future, because I mean,
I appreciate it.
You're just getting better.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I don't plan to stop. I plan to keep going. I've got lots of cool products I'm working on reviewing right now, and it's a long process to review some of these, but I enjoy that process, digging into the fine details of things. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm going to kick it off with the first question here, and then Matt's going to drill you with some participant or listener questions. So,
okay.
Very first question we ask everybody on here, and it's, why do you run?
Oh, why do I run? That's a really good, deep question. You wouldn't think so, but it's a deep question. I don't know. I run because I like to challenge myself with difficult things that I once thought was impossible, and like just seeing that growth that we talked about, how it gets better. And I still remember to this day. I still remember my first 9 mile run. I was in Tennessee. It was in the summer. It was crazy humid. And thinking after that run, like, I don't know why any moron would run a marathon. They're stupid. Like, this is ridiculous. I sweat so much. It was so painful. And now it's like I run 9 miles on Wednesday. That's what I do. It's like, it's easy. It's just that growth. And so, like, I run because I love seeing the personal growth in myself and pushing the boundary past what I once thought was impossible.
I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
And one of the things, me and Mary were just talking about this not too long ago, and she had found a study on it, but doing things that you don't like, like whether it's a cold plunge or even if it's running, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The thing, once you like it, this impact changes,
Yeah.
But doing things you don't like can actually help your body, go into like that flight or fight response, kind of like, it challenges you to do hard things, and it can actually help you live longer.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
That's kind of awesome to think about. Like, there's still days that I wake up and like, I don't want to go run.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to. And I'm like, see, that's how I live my life every day. I mean, I look at this cold plunge for like sometimes I stand there for 10 minutes to get in it for 4. And I'm like, oh. So hats off. I mean, you're exactly right. That growth, you just don't even think about it till you step back and you're like, man, I hate it to run 9 miles. Now I run 9 miles. That's like, shoot, if I run 9 miles, that's probably like my shortest run. Like it's that's awesome.
Right? Yeah.
All right, Matt, go right ahead, sir.
All right, we got a bunch of questions, but we've covered a lot of them, so I'll just do those real quick so we can go ahead and check those off. He just asked you what got you into YouTubing, and you say what, get people from the road to the trails. We went over, did you roll or break your ankle in your first business? And I would believe you tore a ligament.
That's right, tore a tendon. That's right.
Okay. Let's see. Somebody asked, when you won the fort, was it harder than expected? We already covered that. All right. Let's see. What kind of strength training do you do?
So now, a lot. It's every Mondays is kind of like a core activation day where it's a lot of planks and maybe just some lunges, different variations on planks, and just building the core kind of stuff. And it's a lighter day typically. Wednesdays and Fridays are my strength days where I'm lifting weights, and it's anything from just I'm still in the early phases. I think I'm now in week 3 with my strength coach, so we're maybe week 4. So we're getting into out of the building phase where he wanted to make sure I wasn't going to hurt myself, and get into some actual weights, but yeah, I mean, it's anything from I'm doing jump squats, jump lunges with dumbbells, box jumps, jumping onto Bosu balls, different lunges, um, lots of different things. Yeah, I mean, just a lot of different things. I'm about to get into a more specific throwing heavier weights around now, so I'm looking forward to that.
Have you started to enjoy any of it yet?
Yeah, I do. I like it. I do enjoy it. I mean, I you can't tell now, but like I worked out a lot in like 2005, 2006. I mean, I was a lot bigger. I was benching 245. Now I probably couldn't even bench 185. I don't even know. Like it's it, but I was a lot bigger back then. So I liked the gym. It's just running took over, and I love running, and I still love running the most, but I do enjoy the gym. I see the benefit of it, and I know that it's valuable to me as a runner.
Yeah. When you lived in Tennessee, where did you live?
I lived in Knoxville for a few years, and then I lived in a small town called Clark Range, which is just south of Jamestown, Tennessee, which is very near where No Business starts.
Yep.
Then I lived in Deer Lodge, which is just 30 minutes from Frozen Head. That's why I was every weekend I'd be at Frozen Head State Park training.
Cool. So why did you move to Colorado?
I mean, it's Colorado. uh, Honestly, that's really why we moved, because the mountains, the weather, um, just some better opportunities. I mean, I have the same job I had before because I work remote, so I have that luxury of being able to do the same thing, and I don't have to find a new job. But yeah, the weather was a big, big, big factor for us. Like I said, my wife's also an ultra runner. My kids like to do things outside. And just in Tennessee, you guys know this firsthand. You can't go out in the spring, the summer, the early fall and do a 3 mile run without being drenched in sweat because of the humidity. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get away from that and get to a better temperatures and weather. Even the winters here aren't that bad. And so, and plus, I mean, literally, I can look out my master bedroom window and I have an awesome view of Pikes Peak. It's right there, so it's.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm 20 minutes to get to some serious trails where I can go up to 14,000 feet. So can't beat that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
went to Pikes Peak right before my daughter was born in 2014, and it was
Nice.
really cool. And these two ladies were actually bicycling from the bottom all the way to the top, and they had just made it once we got up there. I'm like, what crazy person does this? Then I found out they got a race that climbs up, and I'm like, that'd be pretty cool.
Yep.
Okay, so the longest distance you've done would have been at the 48-hour ozone?
Right, 136 miles. Yep.
Gonna beat that this year, though.
Oh yeah, 200.
Yes, absolutely.
At the backyard.
That's true. That's very true. I sure hope so.
Since you've done a lot of East Coast and West Coast, how do you compare them?
Well, my West Coast experience so far has just been the 3 Leadville races, which are lifetime races. And then I did the one race in California, and I've done one race out in Oregon, which the California race was a Spartan race, so it's kind of the same as lifetime. Big box race company.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely prefer the smaller race director experience. Whether it's you'll feel that personal connection, and in my experience so far is just with the bigger stuff out west. I haven't really gotten any of the local smaller races yet, but hopefully this year I've got a couple on the calendar. I mean, the 200 miler is a small race, but that's put on by probably the largest race director in the in the country. I think he has the most ultra races that he directs of any race director.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So, but they have a very small field, so hopefully that'll be good. But yeah, East Coast races that I did, No Business was the prime. I love that race. That's when I think of like what a race should be like, I always compare it to No Business. That's my litmus test. So, yeah, I love the East Coast style.
Cool. So your hardest race for you would have been Leadville with the altitude?
Yeah, I'd go with the altitude, definitely.
Okay, let's see. Going to some of your YouTube stuff. What has been one of the coolest products that you've reviewed on YouTube?
That's a good question. Coolest product. I mean, I review a ton of shoes, and shoes are cool. But probably one of the most useful things, I guess, that I've reviewed from a running recovery standpoint is maybe that sauna blanket. I
I've
use that
seen your
all the
videos
time.
or your posts of that thing. That thing looks cool.
Dude, I love that thing. Especially like after a cold run outside when it's, 20 degrees, you come back and hop in that thing to warm up and your muscles feel all awesome. That's been really cool. I love that. Some of the watches that I've reviewed have been really nice too, but just been a lot of reviews, so it's kind of hard to narrow it down to the coolest. But yeah, maybe the sauna blanket.
Okay. How do you get your products to review on YouTube?
So when I was first in my first 2 years, a lot smaller, it was a lot of me begging companies, reaching out, doing a lot of Googling, trying to find out who a PR agency was for Hoka or who handled the PR for Solomon, and then contacting those companies and just pleading, hey, I'd love to review a pair of your shoes on my channel, and a lot of that. Now it's pretty much companies reach out to me and request to send me products. I have a really awesome relationships with Hoka, Solomon, Saucony, Koros, really good relationships with them. Gnarly nutrition that, I can just email my rep and be like, hey, I know that there's a shoe coming out in a few months. Whenever you get a sample, I'd love to test it. And next thing I know, there's like a pair of shoes on my front door in a couple of days, to test. So I still communicate with them, but newer brands, a lot of the time, it's pretty much they reach out to me and ask me if I would review something for them. And I can even tell you, like, the number of companies that reach out to review products that are not anywhere related to running whatsoever. Like they clearly have no clue who I am or what I do, and they just see maybe that I'm on YouTube and they shoot me an email and for a woman's dress or jewelry or like I'm not even kidding. Like every day I get emails from these companies to like
They
review
just
these
see that
products.
you have 20,000 subscribers. That's
Yep.
all they say.
Yeah. Well, it's that was happening since I had like 10,000 subscribers probably, but it's ridiculous the amount of stuff I turn away.
Well, if you ever decide to test a dress in an ultra, just let me know. I will personally come video that.
That would definitely make a good video, though.
Man, that would probably get you a lot of subscribers.
Maybe I need to rethink that.
Let's see. I believe that's all I have. Yeah.
Awesome.
Steven, do you have any questions for us?
No, I don't think. I mean, I know you guys put on some awesome races. I've only done the one that you guys put on, the Fort Frenzy. I was signed up to do to volunteer with you guys one year at the what is it, the 11-mile, 33-mile race you guys do?
Yeah,
Don Loco, that's it.
Yep.
But then that was the year that there was like I think there was a tornado or something that happened like the week before the race and it got canceled.
It happened the day of the race.
Yeah, the day of.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that. Yeah. But I know you guys put on some awesome events, and Fort Frenzy was also aided very well. You guys' aid stations were awesome, and just the support you guys give the runners. I mean, David, you were literally crewing me basically. You were filling my bottles for me and getting me stuff from the aid station. It was awesome. So anybody out there that's wanting to run an ultra or even a non-ultra race, I know you guys do this too. I definitely recommend you guys. It's awesome stuff.
Well, thank you. And we'll have to get you out when we get our, we're trying to put on this 100-miler in the Cherokee National Forest. So we'll have we're working on the 100K and 50K this year. Then we're adding the 100-miler next year. So when we get everything final, we're gonna recruit you to come out here and run it. We want you to come join us.
That sounds fun.
Hey,
Sounds like a fun event.
We need feedback.
Yeah,
that's
the
the
best.
Yeah.
We need some honest feedback, and we know you'll give it to us. So.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I pride myself on is being honest. I just had a big brand for a product I reviewed very recently. It's a very, very large brand. Want to review my video before I published it. And I told them no. I was like, I said, I'm not comfortable with you guys seeing my review beforehand. It's like, I pride myself on always giving honest, unbiased reviews. And they may not send me another product in the future because of that. But to me, that's worth it. Like, I want people that come to my channel to know that they can expect honest feedback. And I'm not gonna be bought out by some brand trying to make me say something good about their product if I don't think it's good.
Well, that's the whole reason you're doing the reviews.
Yep.
Your subscribers want to know whether or not they should try it.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to tell somebody something's good and they buy it and they hate it and they're like, oh, well, Steven told me to buy this. It was good. No, I want you guys to, if it works for me, like I don't like the Speedland. I don't like the Speedland shoes at all. But I know there's tons of people out there that love them. It just doesn't work for my feet. So, that's.
When you cut the insole piece, did it work any better? I noticed
It's helped.
Okay.
Yeah, it's helped. I mean, I haven't run through water yet. They haven't been wet since then.
Yeah.
I do still wear them though, and they do seem to work pretty well.
Cool.
Well, Steven, man, thank you so much for your time. For people that don't follow Steven, check out his YouTube channel, Ultra Trail Steven, or follow him on Instagram. But he does have pretty good reviews, and you can definitely, if you want to see the Leadville 100, some of the trail and the race, he's got a pretty good documentary on there. But yeah, definitely check him out, follow him. Steven, thank you so much for your time, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks, David, Matt. Appreciate it, guys.